Let's start in Leviticus 18, verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel. Let me highlight this for you. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, I am the Lord your God. After the doings of the land of Egypt, wherein ye dwelt, shall ye not do. Let's read that part again. After the doings of the land of Egypt, wherein ye dwelt, shall ye not do. And after the doings of the land of Canaan, whither I bring ye to, shall ye not do. Neither shall ye walk in their ordinances. So the Most High is saying, I'm bringing you out of land where you were slaves. And the things that you learned there, don't do them anymore. I'm giving you the land of Canaan. It's a land flowing with milk and honey. And when you get there are people already there. Don't take on their customs. So then if the Lord is going to tell us this, then he has to give us our own laws, statutes, and commandments to abide by. So he also gives us examples of things that happened for future reference so that we don't go back to doing those things. So he says, after the doings of the land of Egypt, wherein ye dwelt, shall ye not do. So don't do those things again. So let's look at something that happened in Egypt. Let's go back to Genesis, the beginning. Let's go to chapter 40, verse 20. I'm going to highlight it. We're going to start in verse 20. And it came to pass the third day, which was Pharaoh's birthday. Let me read that again. And it came to pass the third day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, that he made a feast unto all his servants. And he lifted up the head of the chief butler and of the chief baker among his servants. So the chief butler and the chief baker were in prison. Pharaoh brings them out on his birthday. Verse 21. And he restored the chief butler unto his butlership again. And he gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. So the butler is restored to being a butler again. But he hanged the chief baker, as Joseph had interpreted to them. All right. So this is Pharaoh having a birthday celebration. During that birthday celebration, he actually hanged the man. But what I want you to really get out of this is the first recording of a birthday happened in Egypt, the land where we served as slaves. And when the Lord brought us out, he told us, do not do after their customs, right? So that's a Old Testament birthday being celebrated. I want you to see that in the Old Testament. And then we have a lot of people who say, well, that's the Old Testament. What about the New? Well, we're going to address that also. So where we're going to go right now, before we go to the New Testament, we're going to lay some groundwork. Let's go to the Encyclopedia Britannica. All right, can everybody see that? I'm sure you can. All right, so this is the Encyclopedia Britannica. And this was first written in 1768. That's what you're seeing on that page. This is volume 11, which has to do with the words Halakar to Imagam. So everything in between there, because this is written in alphabetical order. Now the copyright on this particular series of encyclopedias is 1971. Okay, so I want to take you to page 440. And it's going to be, we're going to talk about Herod. Just want to lay some groundwork on Herod here. I hope that can be seen. Let me see if I can get a little bit closer on that. All right, let me read this to you. If you look up there where I have it underlined in red, it says Herod the Great, king of Judea under Roman suzerainty. Okay? Let me read that again. King of Judea under Roman suzerainty. Suzerainty just simply means that Herod and his nation were subservient to Rome. That's all sovereignty means. Just means you're subservient to another country. All right, let's go down a little bit further where I have it highlighted more. It says right here, if you can see the mouse, Herod's immediate descendants for 3 generations were the temporal or spiritual rulers of Palestine or parts of it during the ministries of John the Baptist, Jesus, and the apostles. Now let's go down to the second paragraph, because this is going to tell us who Herod is. Herod's father, Antipater, was an Idumean or Edomite. Let me read that again. Herod's father, Antipater, was an Idumean or Edomite. Now, that word Idumean is just a Greek word that means Edomite. So what I want to do is go into the Bible and show you exactly what an Edomite is. Because you need to know who you are copying when you do these things. So let's go to Genesis chapter 25. Let's go to verse 30. Now, you can go back yourself and read about the birth of Esau. And that's 25 and 25. Let's see. Let's go up a little bit. I'll tell you what, we'll go ahead and read about that. So this is the story of Isaac and Rebekah was barren. So let's start in verse 20. And it says, let me see if I can bring this down so you can get this. Right here, verse 20. And Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife, the daughter of Bethuel, the Syria of Pandaram, the sister to Laban the Syrian. And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife. So Isaac went to the Lord for his wife because she was barren. At this point, she had no children. So Isaac goes to the Lord and says, Lord, bless us with a child. And the Lord was entreated of him, and Rebekah, his wife, conceived. And the children struggled together within her. And she said, if it be so, why am I thus? She said, if this is from the Lord, why am I having all these pains? And she went to inquire of the Lord. And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations. Now notice, it does not say 2 children. It said 2 nations are in thy womb. And 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. So the Lord says you have 2 nations, and they are totally different from each other. 2 different type of people all together, and they're going to be separated from your bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. So the younger son is going to be the strongest, and the elder is going to serve the younger. Verse 24. When her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. Remember, 2 nations? And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. Remember that name. That's what we just read about in the encyclopedia. I'm going to show you. Esau is Idumea, is Edom. Okay? Remember, Idumea is just a Greek way of saying Edom. Verse 26. And after that came his brother out, and his hand took hold on Esau's heel, and his name was called Jacob. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them. All right, so now let's go down to verse 30. Remember, the oldest son's name was Esau. Verse 30, right here. And Esau said to Jacob, so the older brother saying to the younger brother, feed me, I pray thee, with that same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom. Therefore was his name called Edom. So then if we go back to the encyclopedia, Get right down here. And what it says is Herod's father, Antipater, was an Idumean or Edomite. Anytime you put that ITN at the end of a word, it just means the descendant of. So Herod was a descendant of Esau, Edom. Herod was not an Israelite. He was not a Jew. Okay? So get that through your head so you can understand what we're doing now. So now we got Pharaoh celebrating a birthday. Now I'm going to show you Esau, the Idumean, celebrating, not Esau, Herod, the descendant of Esau, celebrating his birthday. So let's go to Mark chapter 6, verse 21. Okay? Back to the Bible. Let's go to Mark. Chapter 6, verse 21. It says in verse 21, and when a convenient day was come that Herod on his birthday made a supper to his lords. So on his birthday, he made a supper to his lords, high captains, and chief estates of Galilee. So Herod invited all the important people of the land to his birthday party, birthday celebration. And when the daughter of the said Herodias came in and danced and pleased Herod and them that sat with him, the king said unto the damsel, ask of me whatsoever thou wilt, and I will give it thee. Do you see where that comes from? People ask you, what do you want for your birthday? It comes right from the Bible. And he sware unto her, whatsoever thou shalt ask of me, I will give it thee, unto half of my kingdom. And she went forth and said unto her mother, what shall I ask? And she said, the head of John the Baptist. And she came in straightway, she didn't waste no time, with haste unto the king and asked, saying, I wilt that thou give me by and by in a charger the head of John the Baptist. And the king was exceeding sorry, yet for his oath's sake, and for their sakes which sat with him, he would not reject her. So he had made an oath in front of all the most important people in Galilee. And so because of that, he wasn't going to go back on it. This girl goes to her mother. Her mother says, give me John the Baptist's head. Because, see, the mother was actually King Herod's sister-in-law. And King Herod had started having an affair with her. And John the Baptist had told him that he could not do that. So Herod locked him up in prison. The woman didn't like it. Now she wants his head. Okay? Just to give you a little background on that. Verse 27, and immediately the king sent an executioner and commanded his head to be brought. And he went and beheaded him in the prison. So look at what you have here. You have Pharaoh, the Egyptian king. He has a birthday party. Then you have Herod. He has a birthday party. And you say, okay, so God told us don't do like Egypt. What's that got to do with Herod? I'm about to show you. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 3. I don't think we need that anymore. Let's go to Proverbs chapter 3. You have to understand what's going on back then. I read into you that in the encyclopedia that Rome was using Herod to rule over Judea from the time of John the Baptist all the way through the apostles. So they were oppressing the Israelites, okay? So let's look at what Proverbs chapter 3, verse 30 says. 31, I mean. Let's highlight it right here. It says, envy thou not the oppressor, and choose none of his ways. Envy thou not the oppressor, and choose none of his ways. So don't go in there and just pick out the murder. Look at that they're celebrating birthdays. And these are wicked people. The Lord actually judged Pharaoh and put him to death and his army. Let's look at some stuff about Herod so you understand what's going on here. Let's go to Romans chapter 9. Romans chapter 9 and verse 13. Went to Romans 13. Let's go to Romans 9. Then I had to be patient and then scroll down to 13. Verse 13 right here. It says, okay, this is Paul, and he's quoting a scripture where the Most High says something. It says, as it is written, Jacob have I loved, but Esau have I hated. These are the two twins born to Rebekah and Isaac. These are the two nations, the two different manner of people. Okay? He says he loves the younger and hates the elder. And Paul said, as it is written. So let's go see where it was written and understand exactly what is going on here. So we have to go back to the Old Testament because that's what Paul is quoting, and go to Malachi chapter 1. Let's start in verse 2. It says, I have loved you, saith the Lord. Yet ye say, wherein hast thou loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother, saith the Lord? Yet I loved Jacob. So right there, God establishes he loves Jacob. Exactly what Paul said in Romans, okay? Let's go to verse 3. And I hated Esau. Exactly what Paul said in the New Testament. And laid his mountains and his heritage waste for the dragons of the wilderness. So for those that think that God only hates Esau and not his descendants, it says, verse 3, and I hated Esau and laid his mountains and his heritage, his descendants, waste for the dragons of the wilderness. Whereas Edom, remember, Esau's name was changed to Edom, saith, we are impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus saith the Lord of hosts. They shall build. Yeah, they're going to return. They're going to rebuild, is what God said. But I will throw down, saith the Lord. Right? And they shall call them the border of wickedness. Who is the them? Esau and his descendants. His descendants. They are called the border of wickedness. And the people against whom the Lord hath indignation forever. Not the person, but the people against whom the Lord hath hatred forever. Okay? Those people celebrate birthdays. Israel is not to do so. I hope y'all understand that. Envy not your oppressor and choose none of his ways. Proverbs 3 and 31. All right, so now we've seen Egyptians and we've seen Edomites celebrating birthdays. So let's go to the Old Testament and look at an example of our people celebrating birthdays. Let's go to Job. I think we're going to start in chapter 3. I need to establish something real quick. Let's go to Job 3 and 1. Okay, there's a term that we're going to use in this book of the Bible. And instead of birthday, you're going to see the term his day. So I need to establish what that means, okay? So let's go to Job 3 and 1. After this opened Job his mouth. That's verse 1. After this opened Job his mouth and cursed his day. And Job spake and said, let the day perish wherein I was born. Okay? Don't want to read this whole thing. What up? You know that Job went through a lot of affliction, and so he's cursing the day he was born. But what I want you to understand is he called the day he was born his day. And that's important to understand what I'm about to show you. So now we're going to go to Job chapter 1, okay? Chapter 1. And let's go on down to verse 4. So before verse 4, it goes on to tell about Job's possessions. First of all, it tells about his children. He has 7 sons and 3 daughters. And then it tells about his possessions. So let's see what his sons and daughters are doing. Verse 4. And his sons went and feasted in their houses, every one on his day. I just showed you that. His day means the day of your birth. So each one of his sons had a feast on the day of their birth. They had birthday parties and sent and called for their 3 sisters to eat and to drink with them. So Job has 10 children, 7 sons, 3 daughters, and they're getting together on the birthdays, at least on the sons' birthdays. So let's look at verse 5. Let's see what Job does when they have these birthday parties. Job, who is recorded as being a righteous man, does not attend these parties. Parents, did you hear me? Job, being a righteous man, does not attend these birthday parties with his children. Parents. Verse 5. And it was so, when the days of their feasting were gone about, that Job sent and sanctified them, the them being his children. So he would send for his children, and he sanctified them. And keeps on going. Right here it says, and rose up early in the morning and offered burnt offerings according to the number of them all. So he offered offerings for all his children. And this is why. For Job said, it may be that my sons have sinned and cursed God in their hearts. Thus did Job continually. So they're having birthday parties continually. Job sending for them, sanctifying them, offering offerings to the Most High. He's doing it continually because he's afraid that what they're doing is turning the Lord against them. Okay? So you have righteous Job, who has a certain attitude towards birthdays, and you have his children who, daddy don't know what he's talking about. Daddy just old. You know how they talk. Okay, so let's go and see what happens to these children. Let's go on down to verse 18. Verse 18. While he was yet speaking, there came also another and said, thy sons and thy daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house. And behold, there came a great wind from the wilderness and smote the 4 corners of the house. And it fell upon the young men, and they are dead. And I only am escaped alone to tell thee. So they're out there having their birthday party, not abiding as their father does. He's setting an example. He doesn't do birthdays. They're having birthday parties. And they get destroyed in their wickedness. I just want y'all to marinate on that for a minute. Because a lot of times it's parents who are leading children into this wicked celebration. Okay? What I'm telling you is, you got to go back now and tell your children you were wrong, not doing it anymore, and you shouldn't do it. And they've got to sit down, they've got to make the same decision you did. You can't force them if they're grown. If they're in your house, they're not going to like it. Everybody else around them is doing it. So I know it's not easy, but it's right. And it shouldn't be hard for you, because the Lord's law should not be grievous unto you. Okay? Now let's look at, I want to go to Ecclesiastes real quick. I think I covered that with Job pretty good. Let's go to Ecclesiastes. Let's go to chapter... Where did I want to go? You know what? We'll come back to that. I don't want to do that yet. Let's go to Matthew 23. Let's go to Matthew 23. And let's go to verse 12. I want you to see something here. When you get out there throwing your own birthday parties and stuff, let's see what this says. And verse 12, and whosoever shall exalt himself. That means to lift yourself up. And whosoever shall exalt himself and shall be Let me say, and whosoever shall exalt himself shall be abased. So you're going to be brought down, okay? And whosoever shall exalt himself shall be abased, and he that shall humble himself shall be exalted. Sit back and let the Lord lift you up, okay? Don't do it for yourself. And whosoever shall exalt himself. All this stuff about this is my day and I'm going to celebrate my day. Put it behind you. All right, we're going to go ahead to Ecclesiastes now. Let's go to Ecclesiastes 7 and 1. I want to show you something that the attitude our people had towards birthday, the attitude of Israelites towards birthdays, birthday parties, and stuff like that. A good name is better than precious ointment. I did tell you that this is Ecclesiastes 7 and 1, right? A good name is better than precious ointment, and the day of death than the day of one's birth. So they're saying right here, this is actually King Solomon, the wisest man to walk the earth other than Jesus Christ. And he says the day of your death is better than the day of your birth. Let that sink in for a minute. I could have showed you the same thing in the book of Job. I could have showed you the same thing from Jeremiah the prophet. But I think this one hits home better because with Job, you'd say, well, Job went through so much. That's why he's saying that. Jeremiah he was on his way to slavery in the kingdom of Babylon. That's why he's saying that. Okay, so we have Solomon, whose enemies were quiet on every side, never had to fight a battle as king. And he says that the day of your death is better than the day of your birth. I got quiet on purpose. It's not that I ran out of anything to say. I wanted that to sink in. Now I'm going to show you something real quick. Let's look at, I did a little bit of study just to see what the secular world has to say. Let's see, how do I get to it? Here it goes right here. I want you to see something real quick here. How did the tradition of birthdays begin? We're not going to read all of this. Birthdays didn't begin until calendars were created. We know the Egyptians had calendars, so they go and talk about the lunar and all of that. It all started with the Egyptians. They got that right. Okay, this is what I want you to see. You can thank Greeks for all those birthday candles. So let's read this paragraph. Let me highlight something for you so you can see where I'm at. It says gods and goddesses. Gods and goddesses were a huge part of Greek culture. Greeks offered many tributes and sacrifices to appease their gods. The lunar goddess Artemis was no different. As a tribute to her, the Greeks would offer up moon-shaped cakes adorned with lit candles to recreate. Let me back up. As a tribute to her, the Greeks would offer up moon-shaped cakes adorned with lit candles to recreate the glowing radiance of the moon and Artemis' perceived beauty. The candles also symbolize the sending of a signal or prayer. Blowing out the candles with a wish is another way of sending that message to the gods, plural. Now, don't we worship the Most High God? And besides him, there is no other? When you're out there doing these birthday celebrations, number one, you honor yourself as a god. Number two, you're worshiping gods that don't exist. Now, we're not the only people with a Bible. I'm going to show you something. This gets even deeper. Right here we have what's called the Satan Bible. I want to spell this out for you. I'm going to blow this up for you right here. You need to see this. See if I can go in a little bit more on that. All right, so we have the Satan Bible. Now, I'm going to read a little something to you about what they say. says back in 1969, Anton LaVey wrote the Satanic Bible. On page 96 on the 1976 version, it mentions birthdays. Don't go buy this Bible. I just pulled this up for this research. It says, the highest of all holidays in the Satanic religion is the date of one's own birth. This is in direct contradiction to the holy of holy days of other religions, which deify just means worships, a particular god who has been created in an anthropomorphic form of their own image, thereby showing that the ego is not really buried. You see that? Birthdays have to do with your ego, and that's why I took you to Matthew 23:12, where it says, and whosoever exalteth himself shall be abased. You'll be brought down because it's egotistical to go out there and celebrate your birthday as if you are the one who decided you were coming to the earth on that day. Let's keep reading. Let me highlight this for you so you know where I'm at. Right here. It says, the Satanist feels, why not really be honest? Satanists are more honest than Christians. You see that? The Satanist feels, why not really be honest? And if you are going to create a God in your image, why not create that God as yourself? Every man is a God if he chooses to recognize himself as one. So the Satanist celebrates his own birthday as the most important holiday of the year. After all, aren't you happier about the fact that you were born than you are about the birth of someone you have never even met? Or for that matter, aside from religious holidays, why pay higher tribute to the birthday of a president or to a date in history that we do to the day we were, or a date in history than we do to the day we were brought into the greatest of all worlds? Boy, I chopped that up. Let me back up a little bit. Or for that matter, start right here. Aside from religious holidays, why pay higher tribute to the birthday of a president or to a date in history than we do to the day we were brought into this greatest of all worlds? All right, so as believers, first of all, we should only worship God. And the Satanists tell you right here that you're worshiping yourself when you honor your own birthday. Second of all, when we talk about the greatest of worlds, we're talking about the world that's to come. Satanists believe this to be the greatest of all worlds. I'm going to try and speed this up real quick. I'm debating on whether to get into this next part, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. It should be real quick. All right, so we talked about celebrating your own birthdays and celebrating other people's birthdays. Job didn't do it. Job didn't go. He had 10 children. 7 of them, the sons, are having birthday parties, and they're inviting their sisters, got their sisters killed right along with them. And the sisters, it's their own fault they went. Job didn't go, and Job lived, okay? So let me show you something. Now, we just passed last month, the month of December, what many people celebrate as the birth of Christ. And you have a lot of people who say, oh, well, I know that's not his birthday, but. Well, let's see whose birthday it is then. Let's get rid of some of these buts. December 25th, all right? See that, December 25th? Let's go down here. December 25th. Well, I hope y'all can see this mouse. Right here is where we're going. December 25th was the birthday of Nimrod. This is the real origin of the Christmas tree. So let's go and see what's said about the Christmas tree in the Bible. All right. Nimrod was the founder of Babylon. If you remember the story of the Tower of Babel, and there were certain other cities that were created after that by Nimrod. And it says that Nimrod was a powerful hunter before the Lord. Well, Nimrod died. And his mother came up with this story about he came back into his spirit into a tree, and people started worshiping trees as a result. So let's go to, oh yeah, I said the Bible, right? Jeremiah chapter 10 is where it's at. Jeremiah, where you at? Right here. One of our great prophets. Jeremiah chapter 10. Let's start in verse 1. Hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen. This just seems to be a theme. God's telling you, don't do like the Egyptians. Don't go do like the Canaanites where I'm sending you. I hate Esau and all his descendants. Don't do like your oppressor, okay? So let's go back. Verse 2. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. Verse 3. For the customs of the people are vain. These are the heathens. That just means other nations outside of Israel. Here it goes. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest. Y'all know what y'all do. Y'all don't cut the trees anymore. Y'all go find some on some corner. They've already cut the trees and they got them there. So let's read that again. For one cutteth a tree out of the forest, the work of the hands of the workmen with the axe. They deck it with silver and gold. Let's read that again. They deck it with silver and gold. That word deck right there means decorate. They decorate it with silver and gold. They fasten it with nails and with hammers, that it move not. Nowadays, y'all go to Walmart and buy a stand, and you set it in. That's the fastening of this tree, okay? So it doesn't move. Verse 5. They are upright as the palm tree. So when you fasten it, you're making sure that this tree stands upright. But speak not. They must needs be born. They must need to be born. God said they can't speak because they cannot go. Be not afraid of them, for they cannot do evil, neither also is it in them to do good. God said it's just a dumb tree. And here y'all are fastening it up, worshiping it, bowing down, putting gifts under it. And he told you right here in verse 2. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen. This was a heathen custom. And we taking it on, and we're saying that we're honoring our God's son. Just lying because we know he wasn't born on December 25th. This is Nimrod's birthday. Jeremiah was a prophet during the time that Israel was in captivity in Babylon. This is a Babylonian custom, not an Israelite custom. Verse 2, for the customs of the people are vain. All right, I think we're going to wrap it up there. I could get into more about this wicked holiday called Christmas, but if I did, it just gets into more church doctrines that need to be torn down, and it takes more than a few minutes. Each one of these subjects needs to be handled one at a time, okay? I hope that this lesson was edifying, Israel. I hope that you go back and check behind me. Go back, write these. I hope you wrote these scriptures down. Go back and read over them. There's more dealing with birthdays. As a matter of fact, if you would get this book here, this is the Apocrypha. There are 14 books in there that were removed from the Bible by the Protestants after they came over here to the Americas. At the time when King James authorized the translation of the Bible into English, these books were in the Bible. It has a lot to say about birthdays as well, okay? I didn't get into it tonight, but you need these 14 books, okay? Even if you look at the book of Esther, it's not complete. It stops, and the completion of that book is in here. So again, Shalom, Israel.